Once upon a time, in a small village in Africa, there lived a young girl named Amina. She was known throughout the village for being very beautiful, but she was also known for something else. Amina was incredibly lazy. While other children woke up early to help their parents with chores, Amina would stay in bed until the sun was high in the sky. She did not like to work, and she always found a way to avoid it. Amina lived with her mother and younger brother, Kofi. Her mother was a hardworking woman who woke up before dawn each day to fetch water, prepare food, and tend to their small garden. Kofi, though he was younger, would help his mother every morning without complaining. Amina, however, would only wake up when she smelled breakfast cooking, would then sit down to eat and refuse to help with any work. Her mother often said, "Amina, you must learn to work hard. A lazy person will never have a good life." But Amina would just wave her hand and say, "I don't need to work. I am beautiful, and one day I will marry a rich man who will take care of me." As the seasons changed, the rainy season arrived, and with it came the time for planting crops. Everyone in the village was busy preparing their fields, planting seeds, and making sure they had enough food for the months ahead. Amina's mother and Kofi worked hard, planting yams, maize, and vegetables in their small field. They asked Amina to help them plant, but Amina always had an excuse. "I'm too tired. I will help tomorrow." But tomorrow never came for Amina. Day after day, she sat in the shade of the big baobab tree, braiding her hair and singing to herself, while others worked. Her mother and brother grew tired, but they did not complain. They knew that the village was poor, and if they did not work hard, when the rainy season ended, the crops began to grow. The village was full of green fields and healthy plants, but Amina's family fields did not have as many crops. Amina's mother sighed and said, "If only we had more help, our harvest would be bigger." As the months passed, the village prepared for the annual Festival of Harvest, a time to celebrate the crops and share food with friends and neighbors. Everyone in the village dressed in colorful clothes and brought their best dishes to share. Amina was excited for the festival, not because she had worked hard, but because she loved to dance and eat all. When the day of the festival came, Amina wore her finest dress, decorated her hair with bright beads, and put on her shiny jewelry. She felt like the most beautiful girl in the village. But when she reached the festival grounds, she noticed that people were looking at her with disapproving eyes. They whispered to each other, "There goes Amina, the lazy girl. She does not work, but she comes to eat." Amina ignored them and spent the day dancing, laughing, and eating until she was full. But when the festival ended, she went home with an empty heart. She saw the pride in the faces of those who had worked hard, and soon the dry season came and food became scarce. Families in the village survived on the food they had stored from the harvest. Amina's family, however, did not have much to store. They had only a small harvest because Amina had not helped with the planting. Her mother and Kofi ate smaller meals, but soon the food began to run out. Amina was hungry, and she begged her mother for more food, but her mother said, "We have no more. We did not plant enough because you refused to help." One night, Amina lay in bed with an empty stomach, and she thought about all the times she had refused to help. She remembered the festival where she had eaten the food that others had worked so hard to grow. For the first time, she felt true regret. She knew that she had to change, or her family would suffer. The next morning, Amina woke up early before the sun had risen. She surprised her mother and Kofi by lighting the fire and preparing a small breakfast with the last of the food they had. "I want to help," she said. "Please." Her mother was surprised but happy to see Amina's change of heart. From that day on, Amina worked alongside her mother and Kofi. She fetched water from the well, tended to the animals, and learned how to plant seeds properly. The villagers noticed the change in Amina, and soon, as the next rainy season came, Amina was the first in the field, planting seeds with care and working harder than anyone else. When the crops began to grow, her family's field was one of the greenest and healthiest in the village. When the harvest came, they had more than enough food to eat and share with others. At the next festival of harvest, Amina was no longer ashamed. She walked with her head held high, proud of the work she had done. Her mother hugged her and said, "You have learned a great lesson, my daughter. Hard work is not a punishment, but a reward. It feeds not just the body, but the heart." Amina never forgot that lesson. She grew up to be a respected woman in the village, known not just for her beauty, but for her wisdom and her hard-working spirit. And whenever someone asked her how she had changed, she would smile and say, "A lazy person will never have a good life." This is the story of Amina, the girl who learned that true beauty shines brightest when you work hard and care for the people you love.